You're listening to Never Heard of It, a Night Shift Radio production.
Feeling a little haggard today.
Okay.
I had a late night. Got done recording Left of the Dial episode about a Scottish band, and the Scots, they're heavy drinkers. At least these guys are.
Sure.
And so I decided to play along, to get the full experience.
Right. I mean, it's only polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When in Scotland or whatever. And so I stayed up, and I needed something kind of lighthearted to watch, and I stumbled across Julie and the Phantoms on Netflix.
Yeah, I tried getting my daughter to watch that show. I think she would really dig it.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
There are some believability issues, not the whole ghost band thing,
Sure.
But there was a 4-piece rock and roll band, and all 4 of them could sing really well. That just it takes me right out of it.
You're like, this isn't realistic at all.
It's not realistic at all. I'm gonna adjust this camera here. So I actually just completed the season. Although, if we're being honest, I don't remember a lot of it. But there is a total Disney villain of a character, a very well-dressed ghost man named Caleb.
Oh, hey. All right.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I dig
even
it.
has a whole Disney villain song, you got nothing to lose, boys.
Fantastic.
It was straight out of any Disney musical. It was amazing.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to give it a watch. I that looked pretty interesting when I saw the trailer for it. I was like, "Oh, this looks really cute."
You would think it's
adorable.
adorable.
And I showed it to Juniper, and she was like, "Oh, this is cool. Can we watch anime though instead?" And I was like, "I mean, yeah, of course." Yeah, we actually just started Fruits Basket.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
Fruits
a classic.
Basket. Yeah, it's actually an old one, but they remade it to a new version just recently. Last year, season 1 came out. Season 2 is out now. For those not familiar, Fruits Basket is a story of the new version is a story of a girl who essentially becomes homeless and ends up rooming with these 3 boys. One of them's an older one. He's maybe in his 20s, and the other 2 go to her school. And she ends up rooming in their shrine. But what the story is that they are the reincarnation of the years. So there's one turns into a rat, one turns into a dog, one turns into a cat if they're hugged. So if you hug them or touch them, they turn into their animal, but they can do it at will as well. So it's just a cute little story about these boys that turn into animals, and it's very fun. It's very slice of life fantasy anime, it's standard. So that's a good one to watch if you're not if you're into it. This could turn into a whole anime recommendation podcast, and it's not going to. But that being said, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I'm your host, Michael Fight.
Hi, I'm Caleb, the Beast of Koi.
So good.
I feel like somewhere along the line, eventually, we've got to do an anime podcast on this network.
Yeah, I would 100% be down for that, in a fucking heartbeat.
He said network, which means it's time to talk about NightShiftRadio.com. For those of you who aren't familiar, yes, Never Heard of It is part of a media network, not just podcasts. We've got all sorts of great stuff planned for you, but you can check us out over at NightShiftRadio.com. We have several shows that you can get into. You can smash that subscribe button and get a new episode every week. And we have
technically get 5 episodes every week.
That's true. We have 5 shows and counting right now. And of course some printed short stories, some excellent nonfiction blog posts from our team members. Lots of great stuff on there. And we just launched a new merch store.
We did, and it's pretty fucking awesome. So not only is it is there some cool Night Shift Radio stuff, like a really fucking dope Night Shift Radio hoodie that has the little like radio tower on the front, but then it says Night Shift Radio on the back. So fucking cool.
It's
You
so
should
dope.
pick one up. But also it has merch for every one of our currently active shows, and there's tons of stuff on there. There's like shirts and leggings and masks and phone cases and mugs and pet hoodies, which is probably the coolest thing.
That's the dopest thing. I think Superpod has a fanny pack.
Yeah, Superpod has a fanny pack. Yeah,
incredible.
It is pretty incredible. There's a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah, that's linked off of our website. Or you can also go directly there at nsrad.io/merch. Get it? Because it's like radio.
Yeah, like Night Shift Radio.
Night Shift Radio and nsrad.io/merch.
/merch. That's clever. I dig that. I dig that. But yeah, so we're continuing on. We're on what? This is week three of our listener requests. And this one came in from Nick P. I mean, practically begged us to do this movie. So
very, very enthusiastic about it.
Very enthusiastic. So their message read through our submissions: please check out and do an episode on a film called The Beast of War from 1988, directed by Kevin Reynolds, starring George Zunza.
You're struggling here.
Zunza. I don't know who he is. George Zunza. Jason Patrick, Stephen Bauer, and it was only released in 2 screens across the whole of the U.S. by Columbia Pictures. And I kid you not when I say this is the best Hollywood film you have never heard of. That's a bold claim.
That is a bold claim. That's high praise and absolutely fascinating bit of trivia that it only ever released on 2 screens and then kind of disappeared into obscurity. And think about like in a world where streaming services and like rent on demand and stuff like that wasn't available, this movie could have easily just disappeared.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty hard to come by. But one of the reasons why, Caleb and I learned that it was really hard to come by is because even though it's billed as The Beast of War, it's actually titled under just The Beast.
The Beast.
Which makes more sense when you watch the movie and you kind of understand the premise.
Yeah. And so we're going to have to disclaimer the fuck out of this episode. First of all, this is pretty far outside of the normal fodder for our podcast. This is a very serious movie. To the point where I don't even think we're really going to be able to crack too many jokes about it and still walk away with our souls intact. It is a graphic depiction of war and the violence and horrors thereof. Honestly, I would have a hard time recommending that you watch it because of that. Now, if you like war movies and are okay with graphic depictions of violence, and especially if you appreciate the historical context of it, then I would go so far as to say that this is classifiable as a good film. I did not enjoy it. I want to put that right out there.
Yeah.
But just strictly speaking, it was a good film. And thank you for the recommendation, Nick.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really interesting about this movie is this is very much a war military movie. This is an American movie though. But it is not about American war at all. In fact, it's specifically about the Russian invasion of Afghanistan in 1981.
And the Mujahideen resistance fighters fighting back against them. We open on an incredibly graphic scene that I struggled to get through of a battalion, brigade, group of Russian soldiers. I don't know military terminology. Someone will correct us.
Yeah. Military Twitter.
Military Twitter will come for us. A group of Russian soldiers just absolutely laying waste to a small desert village, showing no mercy whatsoever. The stormtroopers look tame and civilized compared to this group.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty the first good 30 minutes of this movie got me to the point where I was like, Yeah, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
This is really rough. I mean, it's very realistic war graphic. It was rough.
The only reason that I was able to get through this initial opening scene was having a prior understanding of what the story point is supposed to be and like the most important plot, and really wanting to see how that played out. But it was very difficult. In fact, there is a scene of a man being intentionally run over by a tank, like laid flat under the treads and run over. And I don't know if they show it because I couldn't watch.
It's pretty freaking close. Yeah, I had to turn away once I saw the very first part of it, but I kind of glanced every few often, and yes, you very graphically see a man get run over by a tank. Outside of, you see guts spilled and people's limbs blown off. I mean, it's it's not Saving Private Ryan, but it's pretty fucking close.
I was just thinking about how I went to see that movie with my mother's husband at the time years ago. I refused to call him my stepfather because he was a dick. I fucking hate that guy.
Yeah, fuck you.
But he was being nice this night, and we went to see that movie in the theater at the next nearest town that actually had a theater out here in fucking bumfuck Southeast Missouri. And we went to dinner beforehand at, I don't know, it was like a Red Robin type place. It wasn't a Red Robin because I don't even think they were around then, but we had big like sit down American style meal. And then go and sit and watch Saving Private Ryan. I'm like, this was probably not our best plan.
It was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, you know what though? You said Red Robin, and I have not been to a Red Robin in many years, but instantly, because marketing works, I was like, Red Robin.
Yum. They're actually,
it fucking works. That shit works.
Yeah, it works. I read that they're closing a whole bunch of locations due to not being able to really pivot and handle the pandemic very well.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I love me some unlimited steak fries, but I'm not going to be sad.
Yeah, I mean, again, I haven't been there in years, so it's, I'm not going to look, oh man, another chain restaurant down. Obviously they employ lots of people locally and, for all the places, yes. And that's great. But maybe a local restaurant would open instead.
That would be awesome. That would be ideal. I just slammed a really, really fantastic burger from the brewery down the street just before we started recording, and I'm very pleased with that decision.
That is a very good decision. I would slam the shit out of a burger right now. It's funny. We're about to move. We're actually moving. I know I've been talking about moving for like 5 episodes in the podcast, but it's actually happening.
It's all you ever talk about.
By the time this episode airs, I will have moved. It's funny. So my girlfriend was really like, she really wants to like get a home phone. I mean, personally, I have no need for it, but her reasoning is pretty legit. I'm not going to go into the reasoning. It's very, very specific to our situation. And I'm like, all right, dig. She's a vegetarian though. And she sent me like suggestions for phones she wanted. And one of them was a cheeseburger. And I was like, the irony is not lost on me, but
get the cheeseburger phone.
Get the cheeseburger phone. It was pretty good. I was down for it.
If you have to have a landline phone and the opportunity presents itself to have a novelty phone, get the novelty phone.
So when I was growing up, I had a phone in my room, and it was one of those clear phones. Remember the clear ones? Mm-hmm. Oh, it was so fucking cool. I love that so much.
I had a goofy novelty phone, and I can't remember what it was now. It was probably Batman related because
obviously.
I mean,
obviously.
I did have a dope little Batman alarm clock, where it was him like kind of posing heroically next to the clock, and then on the other side was a spotlight that when you turned it on would project the bat symbol onto the ceiling.
That's so cool.
That was dope as fuck.
That's super dope. I love that. I want that now. Shit. Right. I bet you it's still available.
You could probably find it.
Oh, I'll find the fuck out of it. You watch me. So if
you don't know,
so for all of you guys watching on YouTube, if all of a sudden you see me and I'm like, I'm looking for that phone, just so you know. um, on the internet while Caleb's talking about something. So The Beast of War. So this film actually came out in 1988. It's roughly just shy of 2 hours long. It has a pretty good rating on IMDb, 7 out of 10. Not terrible. I would say, I mean, if anything, the only reason why this movie for military aficionados probably doesn't get a 10 out of 10 is because Stephen Baldwin's in it. So that's... They're probably like, oh, Jason Patrick, Stephen Baldwin. Fuck this movie. -3 points.
What else has Jason Patrick been in? Because he looked very familiar.
Jason Patrick, he has been in a lot of things. So he's Michael. He's fucking Michael from Lost Boys. He's in Speed 2. Yeah, Sleepers, The Losers, Becoming, Runt, The Vanished, Big Kill.
He's going to be in The Max? Oh, no, that's not The Max. It's just Max. Never mind.
Just Max.
I was real excited.
But yeah, so this movie was directed by Kevin Reynolds. And Kevin Reynolds, man, he was the fucking dude in the early 90s because he did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Okay.
He did The Count of Monte Cristo. Well, that was 2002. He did Waterworld. So
see, I was gonna ask like how did this movie like fade into obscurity with that kind of credentials, but I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, so in all fairness, so he did this, and then he did Robin Hood, and then he did Papa Nui, which was Rapa Nui, which is actually a really cool movie. If you've never seen it, I have actually seen this. It's set on like Easter Island. It's all about like them erecting the Easter Island statues things. It's actually really cool.
Neat.
Very cool movie. He did Waterworld. He did 187 with Sam Jackson.
Okay.
Count of Monte Cristo in 2002. And then Tristan and Isolde came out in 2006. And I totally thought that movie came out way before that.
Yeah.
I definitely would have pegged that as like 2001.
He did an episode of Amazing Stories in the original run.
Oh, yeah. Back, 1986.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
Yeah, Fandango, Proof, and he was the writer for a lot of things like Red Dawn, obviously, military, later military film.
Okay.
And the other version of Red Dawn, he did the original screenplay back in 1984. But yeah, and then there was also there's a movie called Whitewater Summer, which stars Kevin Bacon and Sean Astin, and he was the he was the second unit director for that. Second unit director? What? I can't see what it is. Second unit for something of that. But that movie's actually super fucked up. And if I remember it correctly, it like starts off being like this summer vacation with like a mom and her kid, and then ends up being like this like fucked up murderous thing on rapids, if I remember correctly.
Huh. Like a thriller? Is it a thriller?
It's kind of a thriller, I would say.
I was always really confused by the term thriller, because I never found them particularly thrilling myself. They always just seemed like they were like ominous and aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, thriller is such a vague term in film.
It really is.
Because like thriller could also be like a horror movie, but it could also be like a movie about an affair that's like, you know, illicit or whatever. Like thriller is really generic. But this is going to get me on another tangent, and I'm sorry.
Excellent.
Right. So not really a tangent. So I have, we have a TikTok. Night Shift Radio has a TikTok that we've just been posting our, you know, clips from all our shows on because, you know, whatever, TikTok gets popular and it's super easy to post our clips on. Yeah, they get a lot of views. So I watch it. My daughter obviously loves TikTok. So of course I watch TikTok to make sure that, you know, no crazy shit is happening. But coincidentally, TikTok actually has a filter that you can be like, hey, no, I'm under 13. And it only shows you like, you know, it filters shit as best as it can. So like, she's not listening to like wet ass pussy, you know, cause she's 8. But TikTok is divided into like subsections. Like there's like these these like, you know, just like there's, you know, where you're like in like nerd Twitter or political Twitter, or, you know, there's like these pockets of genres.
Sure.
So TikTok has those pockets of genres, but some of them are way more fucking weird and awesome. So obviously one of the very biggest one is cosplayers. Cosplay TikTok is fucking huge. Because it's great because they can dress up, but they can also, like, you know, interact scenes from anime. It's very cool. There is gay TikTok. There's a lot of gays on TikTok, also pretty fucking rad. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But there's a very small subsection of TikTok, and I've been sending my girlfriend clips of it every so often, and she's like, "Oh my god, fucking stop!" Is linguistics TikTok?
Oh, go on.
It's really fucking interesting. So there's one specific TikToker called Medium Noah, who he will post videos about linguistics. So like one TikTok he did was like the history of the ampersand and the word and like why it looks the way it looked, what it used to look like, why we use it, when we use it. He did one about overwhelmed, underwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that the word whelmed used to mean underwhelmed, but because as a society everything progressively got bigger and bigger, the word whelmed didn't seem like it was whelming enough, and so we added under to it to make it seem bigger than it actually is. And he talks, I mean, just like the coolest fucking things. Like he talked about that. He talked about like one of the ones that I thought was really interesting is he talks about why mama is mama in like every language is, you know, the word for mother is mama or something very similar. He talks about the reason why is because when babies are born, they're mostly with a caregiver, which is typically the mother due to breastfeeding and things like that. And ma is the most easy like syllable to create. And so the kid's first utterance of words as they're trying to mock sounds and stuff like that ends up being something to the effect of ma, mama, ma. And then, so therefore the word kind of evolved because of that.
Yeah.
And less of because we didn't say, oh, a woman that gives birth to a baby is a mother, is a mom. We said, well, babies call these people ma. So that's the word for it. It's like one of the very, very few instances where it kind of went the other way around. Instead of us naming a thing was named by the thing. It was very cool. Very neat. I don't know. It was really cool. Linguistics TikTok. Who fucking knew, right? Who fucking knew, man?
I'm a big fan of the Nuke's Top 5 YouTube channel to watch the clips of the scaries and the spooks and the boy howdies. And he does feature a lot of ghost TikTok.
Yeah.
Or just like spooky TikTok.
I mean, it kind of sucked because, I mean, possibly as of this episode, TikTok could no longer exist in America. So that's a thing. But I mean, TikTok did have some cool communities. It was pretty interesting. So is it a shame? Is it a loss? I don't know, man. One less social media site is, you know, neither here nor there. But
we've seen so many come and go.
Right. I mean, you know, we're still not all on Path.
Yeah. Seriously. Pour one out for Path.
Yeah.
The greatest social media of all time.
Dude, it really was, man. But again, we've talked about this before, but it seriously was only Apple people on Path. Like corporate wide, like the only people that used Path were anybody who worked at an Apple retail store, and that was it.
Yeah.
Just and because like
we weren't enough to sustain it.
God damn it. There was only like 275,000 of us at the time. So
we let them down.
That's fair. We did.
We let them down.
We were too elitist for their own good. So we're talking about this movie still, I promise. So so as we mentioned, so this Russian troop rolls into this to the small Afghani town and just shreds it to pieces. I mean, they've got this giant tank, which the Afghans are calling it the Beast. The Beast of War.
There's the name.
There's the name. So, and the story really revolves around this tank and the Russians inside of it. Now, one of the things that really bothered me about this movie, aside from the gory and realistic violence and atrocities of war, is that it still kind of painted the Russians in a positive way. Like, kind of at the end, everybody's kind of like, what is, like it, I don't know. I mean, I guess really it kind of painted the Afghanis in a better way because they, but it was weird that it was still like a Russian savior, I mean, whatever.
It's
historically
very much so. It's trying to paint a very realistic picture of the atrocities of war, but also of what it means to have and follow a conscience in the middle of those atrocities.
Yeah.
And so, well, yeah, there's a little bit of like a white savior sort of thing. It's more that like he kind of turns on his own people in understanding that, like, it's like the Mitchell and Webb video. Are we the baddies? Yes.
Are we the baddies?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
And
yeah.
I don't know a lot about the history of Russian military aggression in Europe and Asia, but I do know that this was wrong.
Yeah.
Bad, and I think we can probably consider that to be an objective fact.
I mean, given Russia's history in the 80s, yeah, probably, and 90s and 2000s.
I'm not trying to step on any Russians out there who may be listening. Like, I don't know all the history, but
yeah,
this is pretty bad. Let's agree that this was pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally risky, is he? Yeah. So the story, it follows a very specific troop, and we've got Jason Patrick, who is Konstantin Kovachenko, who is one of the troops, and he's definitely taking issue with the commander who of this troop is very much like they have a translator with them. Mm-hmm. Who is it Samad? No, who is it? That's the translator.
Yeah, Samad. Eric Avari.
Eric Avari, who, by the way, was the guy from the beginning of Fifth Element.
Yeah.
He's the one who was like, he's the priest who comes in and anyways,
yeah.
He's cool. Not the main priest, but the priest.
You've seen this guy in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
He was in Mr. Deeds. He was in The Mummy, Stargate. Like he's a fairly well-known actor.
Whenever they're like, oh shit, we need an older Arabic guy, it's Eric Avari. He was the guy that Hollywood has cast over and over and over again. So Kovachenko is definitely taking. Yeah.
He was Suresh's father in Heroes. I was trying to think of someone specific that I remembered in a specific role.
Yes.
Chandra Suresh.
Yes.
What a great show with so much squandered potential.
You know what? We should just have a Heroes podcast at this point because we've talked about it a few times.
You are not wrong.
Save the cheerleader, save the podcast. Fuck, now we have to do it. God damn it.
Save the podcast, save the world.
God damn, it's probably already exists. Anyway,
so good. It's I mean, it writes itself.
It's fucking does, man. So we kind of see Kovachenko. So he's given specific orders by his commander to kill the insurgents or whatever. They've got this translator with them who is basically in the Russian army. His son works for like the consulate of some sort. So, he's essentially Russian, but Arab, can speak the language of Afghanistan, which is that Arabic? I don't think it's Arabic. I think it's something more specific.
They like in the subtitles said when they were talking to Constantine at one point say like, do you speak Afghani?
So maybe it's its own language. I'm sorry to anyone in the Middle East. I'm not familiar. I need to watch more linguistics TikTok. That's all there is. I mean, I'm just not there yet. I'm sorry. I'm getting there. So I'm just not familiar, but we see him basically just being like he was the one who orders one of the people to be put under a tank. He's the one that's just like, just fucking kill them all and it doesn't matter. But I will say that the women of this Afghan village are probably the heroes of this movie, and we'll talk about why later.
Pashto and Persian apparently are the most heavily spoken languages in Afghanistan.
Okay, all right. But what is it? Pashto and Persian?
Persian.
Cool. All right. There you go. So he spoke one of those two.
Google.
Hey.
And specifically, thank you, Britannica.
Hey.
Fucking colonizers. They should know.
You owned Afghanistan at one point. You should fucking know. Goddamn. There's some more history for you. But yeah, so we get the sense that he is not a very good guy, and one of the things that's kind of frustrating is like there's no Russian accents. They don't use any Russian terms. They refer to them with Russian names. Konstantin, like they, Kravchenko, Golikov, Duskal. But one of them's like Kaminsky. But like it's very, it's very Americanized. And as Caleb has mentioned many times before, they put on the shithole country filter.
Yep.
So everything is very sepia toned. The irony of that is that currently the West Coast of America currently has that shithole filter. Climate change is bad. So ironic, really. But yeah, so this is definitely another one of those films where it's like, hey, everything looks terrible. But we do want to point out that Afghanistan in the 1980s was a democratic, if I remember correctly, was a democratic country. It was not, ruled by, some tyrannical religious zealot. I think it was like just like a normal country.
Also, like there is desert, but there's also some absolutely gorgeous landscape that is always just completely like ignored.
Yeah, it's just
in favor of showing it as like, oh, it's just a hellish desert wasteland,
right?
And like nothing good happens there. Let's just fucking stop.
Yeah, I mean, So
have some honesty and integrity in cinema. Like, fucking stop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the 1980s. So let's talk a little bit about the Soviet-Afghan War. So the Soviet-Afghan War was a conflict where insurgent groups, known collectively as the Mujahideen, as well as smaller Maoist groups, fought a 9-year guerrilla war against the Soviet Army and the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan. So again, a little more of that government throughout the 1980s, mostly in Afghanistan. Mujahideen was actually backed by the United States, Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, and the United Kingdom. The conflict was a Cold War era proxy war. Anywhere between 500,000 and 2 million civilians were killed and millions of Afghans fled the country.
Russia was the enemy. So at any cost, we have to make sure that they don't win.
Yeah. Right. Thankfully. And but yeah, so this was what it was. It was a crazy war. It was pretty nuts. So we helped try to back the Russians from doing shitty shit. Belligerents. This is supported by diplomatic support. I don't know. This is confusing. But anyways. So that's what's happening right now in this war. So before we get to the actual majority of the movie and talk about the specific characters and the goings on of this film, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Before we do, if you get an opportunity, this was a user submission. We're taking more. I mean, we may not get to it till like late November, early December. But if at all you are interested in submitting to us, you could do so at our website at thenahoit.com. We have a submissions section. But other than that, you could also tag us on social media. We're at, the Nahoit Podcast. So the NHOIT Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. If you think of something and you like scroll through Twitter and you see a trailer for something, or you're on Instagram and you see a trailer or an advertisement for it, tag us in it. So we'll definitely check it out. And we would love to watch it. We've got at least one more user request coming next week, and then we've got 3 more in the bank that are waiting.
I think we have 4.
Do we have 4?
I think we potentially have another full month lined up. So I'm looking forward to doing this again.
Yeah, I'm glad they do this again. Yeah, there's a couple of really cool ones we got coming up. So
we put out the call for submissions several weeks back, and y'all really came through, and we're fucking stoked.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will actually dive into the whole film of The Beast of War.
You're listening to a Night Shift Radio production. Night Shift Radio is a modern media company bringing you shows that entertain, inform, and most importantly, provide an escape. Never Heard of It dives into the world of bad, obscure, and sometimes just weird movies. Follow along with the crew of Set Condition 1 as they experience the 2004 sci-fi hit Battlestar Galactica, one episode at a time. Each week on Left of the Dial, we explore a new record or revisit an old favorite. We'll bring in guests to talk about their own music and the state of the industry. The Superpod Hero Cast, guys with beers talking about movies with capes. They draw a random comic-inspired movie from Thor's helmet and offer thorough, insightful, and humorous commentary. And once a month, tune into the Storyteller series and get lost in the magic of a good old-fashioned radio drama. Learn more about these fine shows at NightShiftRadio.com and subscribe on your favorite platform.
Hello and welcome back. So when we left you, we've kind of given you the general idea of the history of this war. We're just into the part where this tank has just rolled on this village, and now the tank is heading off, and we're starting to meet our Russian characters. So as we mentioned, Jason Patrick plays kind of the main one, Kovachenko, and we starting to see that Kovachenko is struggling with very The Force Awakens. Finn is like, after the First Order to kind of like kill, civilians, this character is like, I don't think we should be doing this. This is kind of fucked up, and is starting to really like, have serious, starting to have a conscience, starting to be a good human. And they're like, nah, I don't really think we should be doing this. And of course, his shithead commanding officer, which is Daskal, right? Yeah, is like, fuck you, you're a Russian soldier, you do what you're supposed to do. Like that's what you're supposed to do. Like, it's you're going against, it's court martial if you don't, and blah blah blah. Well, one thing Kovachenko's been doing is writing down in his notebook every time something happens, keeping a record.
Maintains the log essentially for this tank group, and the commanding officer. We see like early on, and then throughout the whole movie, like he's slipping further and further from reality essentially, and is becoming just lost in the madness of this war. And he goes on a rant at one point about how when he was 8 years old, the people in his town would tie a rope on him and lower him down so that he could like sabotage Nazi tanks, and they called him Tank Boy and all of this stuff, and like how he's been fighting for Russia for his entire life, and that's what you do, and like we see this through, and like you can see that he's a fundamentally damaged person, and it just keeps getting worse and worse as he just starts losing his grip, and assuming that Samad is a traitor amongst them, and he drives them harder and further forward, like makes bad decisions and doubles down on them, and won't listen to reason, kills some of his own men either directly or through bad decision making, and like just continues to double down every single time. And it's maddening to watch, to see someone with like no redemption whatsoever, who is just horrible.
Daskal is played by George Zunza, and he's been in a lot of things. He was in Basic Instinct, he was in Crimson Tide, he was in The Deer Hunter, he was in Dangerous Minds, he was in he actually did a voice for Batman Arkham Asylum, which is cool. But for those of you that may have watched Grey's Anatomy, he was Harold O'Malley in Grey's Anatomy for about 3 seasons. So
he was in Species 2.
Oh, of course he was. And he was in Stargate. He was in Stargate SG-1. So that's kind of cool.
Like, given that.
Oh, and he was Perry White in Superman, the animated one.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Given that the world is still so fresh off the ending of the Game of Thrones series, I still maintain that the Species series of movies were amongst the most violent porn I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen Splice?
No, that was kind of similar, right?
It's kind of similar. So Splice is spelled Splyce. Definitely check it out. That's a movie. If Species was your jam, you're gonna want to see Splice.
Listen, I'm not saying that Species was my jam.
Yeah, although I will say that Splice is one of those like confused boner movies, whereas Species is like sometimes confused boner because like when she's in her alien form, but like she's still got nice boobs, you're like, well, I mean, kinda, but like but then she turns into a human, and you're like, oh well, okay, now I'm not as like this isn't as bad. But Splice is definitely one of those ones where you're like, I should probably buy a fox costume.
I don't think it was. No, it wasn't spelled with a Y. It was with an I.
It is with an I. Okay.
I remember when these films came out.
I definitely thought it was spelled with a Y. All right.
Tagline: She's not human, not entirely.
Not entirely, so but I mean, good cast: Adrian Brody, Sarah Polley. It's a good movie. Anyways, it was a good movie. You all should watch it. Every one of you.
Creepy.
Yeah. 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 But
what a weird world we live in.
Movies, man, they're fucking cool. So, so at this point, we've seen some atrocities. We've seen this go through. So finally, at some point, after the killing of Samad, Kurvachenko's like, I'm fucking writing this in the log. Like, you've done this. And he's like, no. And so Daskal does this super fucked up thing where they take Kurvachenko and they tie him up to a bunch of rocks, and they put a grenade under the back of his head, and like pull the pin. So if he lifts his head up and the handle thing comes off, the grenade's going to blow. And they're like, see ya. And it's like super fucked up. Like they did that to like that's their own comrade, like it's super fucked up. But coincidentally, by a matter of chance, he's obviously laid out, and a bunch of dogs come after him, and he lifts his head because the dogs are starting to bite him, and the grenade rolls down and it drops to the ground and explodes. And of course he's perfectly fine magically. These grenades have like a 4-inch
I mean, he's on like a 4-foot high slab of rock, and the grenade drops down to the side of it. So this is not where I suspend my disbelief that he would be shielded by the blast of that grenade.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that one.
There are plenty of other times where the entire crew probably should have died throughout, as grenades were being tossed onto their tanks, or the beast was set on fire, boulders slammed on top of it, any number of ways.
Direct hit with an RPG, and the tank's just like, I'm fine. Everyone inside's like, what was that? It was very weird.
Yeah, not even like ears ringing.
Yeah. So now he's in the he's kind of tied up, and the dogs are away, and he's there, and a bunch of Afghan women come across him, who were the women in this village. And of course they're like, fuck this guy, like he's a Russian soldier. So they start throwing rocks at him. Which, by the way, he gets hit in the face like 5 times and like barely has a mark on his face. Like with fucking rocks, not like pebbles, like fucking rocks,
like larger than fist size.
And thrown from a distance. So there was a little bit of a wind up to that.
From a distance. Oh wait, too soon.
Celine Dion. Who was that? From a distance.
Oh fuck! You're gonna make me look it up. I don't remember. Bette Midler.
Bette Midler. Really? Wow.
How did you forget that? How did I forget that? I'm not even gonna give you shit for that. How did I forget that?
I gotta go back to gay TikTok again, just to warm up. So
national treasure.
Fucking national traveling youth. It was amazing. Anyway, so the women come up, and then another troop of soldiers come up, of Afghani soldiers, and they're like, stop. Like, we're going to ask this guy a bunch of questions. And we meet our main person, Khan, Khan Taj, who frustratingly is played by Stephen Bauer, who is fucking Cuban. Stephen Bauer is Cuban, playing in Afghanistan person. But Stephen Bauer is famous for playing Manny Ribera in Scarface, Carlos in Traffic. He was in Primal Fear. He's in Ray Donovan. He's Don Eladio in Better Call Saul.
I mean,
And Supergirl. That's two Superman people in this. It's interesting.
Definitely a miscasting, but I will give them the slightest bit of credit for it not at least casting all of the major Afghani soldiers as white people. I'll give them that.
Right. I mean, this wasn't Prince of Persia, so we're good here. Like pretty fucking close, but not as bad.
But Constantine, we had a scene earlier where Samad, right?
Samad, yep.
Samad, thank you. Was teaching him some like basic tenets of their philosophy in this region, and also some bits of their language. And he teaches them the words for revenge and for mercy. And he evokes the obligation of Nanawate, which is like requesting mercy, and anyone who asks that, according to Samad, the other person is obligated to provide asylum and shelter and food and like to care for them regardless of whatever has been done in the past. And he makes it Constantine makes it a point to say, so like if I killed your brother and then you came to exact badal, revenge, and I asked for mercy, he's like, Samad says, I would be obligated to care for you. And so, of course, that's our foreshadowing. And so laid out on this slab of rock being stoned by justifiably angry women from the village that Constantine just helped lay waste to. He evokes Nanawate, and they very, very reluctantly agree, because they have this moment of, if we don't honor our own traditions, then we're no better than them, which is it's a trope, it's a thing, but there we are.
I mean, yeah. So this movie came out in 1988, and there's a specific saying that they say in it, which is like, it's a very common one, and it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a movie that came out just a few years earlier, and I don't know if you guys remember it. Starred Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. called Enemy Mine.
Okay, yeah.
Very great sci-fi film. So Enemy Mine is human and alien. They're fighting this long war, and they end up getting stranded together in this one point, and they end up having to like work together to like get free and stuff like that. And so it's kind of like this like thing where they end up exchanging cultures and learning about each other, and it's supposed to be like this really great tale of friendship. It's a really weird fucking movie. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a really weird fucking movie. But it's a good movie. It's a really good movie, but it's very like, this kind of falls in line with that same sort of premise of like oh shit, we're stuck together. We might as well work together. So we get Korvachenko, who is obviously kind of wanting to seek Badal against the Russians who fucking tried to kill him, and the Afghanistans who, are like, I want to fucking kill them because they just killed us.
I was looking at images from Enemy Mine, and the creature effects for the alien reminded me of the alien from the Darmok episode of Star Trek The Next Generation,
yes.
Arguably the greatest episode of sci-fi television of all time. I looked, and that episode came 6 years later. So very possibly, at least subconsciously, if not actively, inspired by.
Yeah. I saw a funny thing that about that episode where they were talking about like speaking only in metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
But then someone was saying like, will the language of the future evolve to just speaking only in memes?
Yes.
So like where somebody says something and they're like, Philip J. Fry, squinting eyes,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or like angry cat staring at yelling white woman, like that's going to be the future of the world. And that's how we're going to speak, is just in memes instead of full on language.
It's like that episode was prophetic.
Yeah.
I also fucking love the t-shirts that people have made riffing on this episode and making it like a band tour. Darmok Enchilada Tanagra, September 1991.
That's phenomenal. His eye, what was it? His eyes wide, his arms wide open.
His arms open. I think it was
eyes closed.
His arms wide.
Yeah, timid. His arms wide. Yeah. Oh, great episode, man. What a
Chaka,
fucking great show.
When the Walls Fell.
When the Walls Fell.
Oh,
Chaka,
so
when the
good.
walls fell. So good.
So good.
So we've got Kovrchenko and the Afghan group, and so they show him that they have an RPG. They have this really great role playing game of Dungeons and Dragons that they want to play in this cave that they're in. No, a different RPG. No, the RPG, it's a gun, not a thing.
You had me for a second. I was like, what?
Roll for initiative.
I don't think I caught that.
That's weird. They played this board game. But yeah, so they basically are like, they offer him food and they're like, well, if you're gonna fucking be here, fix our gun, asshole. And so, he, goes through, he fixes the gun, gets it ready, and they're like, okay, to basically, make this full circle, you were going to kill the beast. They call it the beast. They're referring to the tank that that this troop is in, that is basically, fucking blowing down villages. But the tank, Kovrchenko knows, is running out of gas. It's running out. It's basically just falling apart. So one of the suggestions that got him, sort of fucking chained up was, he was like, we should ditch the tank and just head off on foot. And the person's like, no, we need our fucking tank because power and whatever.
Yeah.
So, and that's where this kind of the bullshit all starts. So he was like, yeah, fuck you. Like, I'm fucking mad at those guys. Yeah, let's go fucking blow them up. So he leads the troop. They head off. They end up in a battle with the tank. They, shoot their RPG at it, and it, kind of works, but not really. But then, so I would say arguably the best scene is the tank is basically, so at first, one of the other contexts of this is that the tank gets rescued by a helicopter. So the tank is trying to make it to the specific pass that puts them in like, good territory. But what they learn is that if they go this one path, there's actually a giant like chasm that they can't get over, and they have to go back around the way they came, which is through, to them, these insurgents. And they have to like try to, survive through them. And the guys were just like, let's take the helicopter, like, fuck the tank, let's take the helicopter. But the sergeant's like, no, you fucking get on the tank. And they're like, but dude.
Yeah, it's, again, like you see, like, he has no like grip on reality at this point. Like, he's going to complete his mission as he sees it, and like, everyone else be damned. Every suggestion, every like voice of reason, you just won't hear it. And like, here is like actual salvation. They're at a dead end, and they otherwise like have to turn back. They have no fuel. The engine is seizing up because they don't have water for the radiator. One of the guys was fucking drinking the brake fluid. Like, he filtered it and then threw some fruit in and distilled it into like liquor in the hot sun and was drinking it. So they have no brake fluid, and the treads are falling apart. Like, they're fucked. Like, they're in like no hope situation here. And like, here's rescue, and he makes them get back in the tank. And the two soldiers, are like, talk about, they're like, why don't we just make a break for it? He's like, no, he'll just shoot the fucking helicopter out of the sky, which, like, you can see the way he's sitting in the gunner seat in the tank, like he would.
Yeah, he 100% is about to do this.
But what we see later, this helicopter, the reason that they found the tank, they were not looking for the tank, they were looking for water sources. And as the tank drives away and the helicopter leaves, they eventually come across a helicopter crew again, but they're all dead at a watering hole that the tank crew had poisoned.
Yeah.
Because they've been not only burning and destroying, leveling villages, but they've been poisoning wells and water holes and doing everything they can to sabotage in their wake. And so they killed their own men.
It's fucked up. So Kovrchenko, in the group, they finally confront the tank. The tank is trying to hightail it through this like corridor back through this path. And they do end up shooting you with the RPG. The tank cannon blasts off, the treads pop off, the tank is kind of stalled, but there's still guns on the tank aside from like the big tank gun. And just as, they're like, he's like, oh no, like, and one of the guys like, Allah, why have you forsaken us? And then you hear an explosion and a bunch of rocks come exploding down off the top of like the ridgeway and
Mm-hmm.
fall on top of the tank, which literally does nothing to the tank or anyone inside of it, but it was still like kind of a cool gesture. And they were like, what the fuck is that? And they look up and it's all the Afghanistan women with
Yeah.
fucking grenades had fucking blown on the, it was just awesome.
This group of women has been following the Mujahideen soldiers the whole way, and they keep saying like, we want to fight, we want to help, like we want
Yeah, they've got guns
our
and
badal, we want our revenge, because they witnessed the like just gruesome violence in their village, and they're out for blood, and the men keep telling them to turn back, to leave, to not follow them, and finally they're just like, fuck it, drop some fucking rocks on them, go killer croc on this tank.
Yeah. Just spectacular. And of course, now all the Afghani troops are there. They pull the guys out, and they do show them mercy. They let them go pretty much after stealing Stephen Baldwin's boots. Which, I mean, if you see Stephen Baldwin, you should probably steal his boots. I mean, I think that's just, he's owed that for everything he's done to us. And poor Stephen Baldwin. So they let him go, but as they head down the road, the Afghanistan women are like, no, fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go and they actually come across the commander there, and they fuck him up pretty bad.
Yeah, we don't see it,
dead.
thankfully, but they come back with his bloody jacket and boots, and throw them on the ground, and the woman who is kind of leading this group, her name is Sharina, she says something to the effect of, "Apologies, my Khan, 2 of them got away."
Oh, fucking phenomenal. Yeah. And so at this point, the helicopter comes back, another helicopter comes back, and he's there. Actually, I would assume it's Stephen Baldwin and the other guy with the helicopter, right?
We don't actually see what becomes of them. It's like someone else comes, and like they don't even land the helicopter. They just lower down a rope with a loop, and Kovachenko, while Taj is trying to convince him to stay with them, because they've essentially formed this bond, this brotherhood, through him being willing to fight for them and stop this tank that's been hurting their people. I think he's just Kovachenko is just like, I need to go home. I need to get out of this fucking war, out of this country. I can't stay here and fight for either side. And so he just pieces out, and so we never actually see what becomes of the other 2. Presumably they get away.
Yeah. So the Beast of War, should you watch this movie? I think if you are a fan of military films, if fucking Apocalypse Now and Platoon and those movies are your jam, yes, absolutely watch this movie. You're gonna fucking love this movie. It's cinematically shot very well. Like it's a good film, and it is on film, so there are scratches and burns and stuff like that. Like there is definitely a scene with a floating hair on the film. I noticed that was fun. But you're gonna like this movie. Personally, I don't like military war films. I was not a fan of this movie. The first like 30 minutes really turned me off. I'm not a fan of realistic gore. Now, mind you, I'll fucking watch Meatball Machine Madoka all day long. Like Japanese, I'll watch Tokyo Gore all fucking day long. But like, this is a little too real. Like, it's for me at least.
I did used to really enjoy military films. I don't anymore, and a large portion of that is anything like truly like personalized and like humanized violence. Like just I don't enjoy it. Like it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't contribute positively to my life. As you said, like cartoonish gore and just like craziness, zombie movie, sure, all day long. But this, no. But like you said, I'll echo it. Like it was a technically good film. It was a good story. It was well performed by the cast. I don't think, again, I don't know enough about the actual history of this to know for sure, but I don't think that it did too much injustice to the story it was trying to tell. And again, if that is your jam, if you're deep into history, probably watch it.
Yeah.
And so
as we mentioned, the Beast or the Beast of War is not streaming free on any services, but it is available to rent everywhere. If you are unable to find it under the Beast of War, try under just the Beast. There is another movie called The Beast of War, but look specifically for the one that says Jason Patrick in it as the star, because there's another one that's kind of very similar looking, like it features an Arabic woman on the cover.
I think that one was from the 90s, though, wasn't it?
I think actually it was even earlier. I think that was 80. Yeah, I think it was later. I'm not sure.
Because this one was 88, and that was
this one's 88. I
was able to find it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I rented it for $4. Caleb off iTunes. Caleb rented it off Vudu Prime. Where'd you rent it?
Google Play.
Off Google Play. Same price, $4. So if you're into it, it was only $12 to buy on iTunes. So if military movies, specifically skirmishes like this, are your jam, fucking do it up.
And little bits of film history with something like this that's like, as we mentioned at the very top of the episode, like could have just easily faded away into obscurity.
Yeah. And one of the people on this, as we mentioned, worked directly with Tarantino in that. So that's kind of like your connection. It was there's some cool connections to it, but so the Beast of War, check it out if you're into military films. And so we've got one more episode this month of our user request, and this one's going to be super fun because it's a movie called Stay Tuned, which is streaming for free on Tubi TV. I'm very excited for this one. I've seen this movie multiple times, and I'm very excited to watch it again. But we have a special guest. The person that requested it was none other than Andrea, who is one of the hosts of Battlestar Galactica and our social media manager for Night Shift Radio. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have her on and chat about that. So that's going to be pretty fun. So join us next week for that one. And then we'll be in October, man. And it's going to be fucking wild.
I think I picked all the movies for October.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun. But cool. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. We super appreciate it, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.